Hey everyone, so I am painting a house. They're actually selling this, but I wanted to talk to you about tannin bleed. Now, what you're seeing here is there is wood underneath this texture and mud, and it has bled through the mud and texture. And the weird thing about this is normally if you tore off the plaster, this is lath plaster, which is old wood slats with concrete, normally you would cover this up with drywall and then mud it, but they didn't do that here. I suspect because they didn't tear down the crown molding is because it would bring the ceiling down too far. So what I believe they did is they mudded it and then they textured it, but the tannin bled through. So tannin is a natural occurring substance in wood, and most tannins in wood are water-based, and they have a tendency to soak through water-based products. And mud and texture, for the most part, are water-based. Sometimes you run into an oil-based texture, but what we're going to do is we're going to solve this problem, and we're going to prime it. And the best thing to use is an oil-based primer. You can lightly see it here, and you can see that it's pretty bad in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an oil-based primer. I'm going to use Zinsser's All Prime. This is an oil base. Now the problem with a water base, I don't recommend using a water-based primer for these scenarios because the tannin is activated by water. Most tannins are activated by water. So if you put a water-based primer on here, stain-blocking primer, the idea behind the stain-blocking primer, if it's water-based, is the tannin is supposed to bleed into the latex product, but then that's supposed to seal that, but it doesn't work all the time. And so I think you just go with an oil base or a shellac-based product. That'll block it. Now, the only downfall to these products is that they really stink. So you want to make sure you have some really good cross ventilation in the house. Do open up a bunch of windows, the doors, and I'd run a fan in the house. You want cross ventilation the whole time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this with the primer, and then I'll put a coat of the finish coat on so that you can take a look at it. And I'm going to use a respirator, all right, with the All Pro because it's, again, the Zinsser stinks a lot. So I'm going to use a really good respirator. This one's about, I just got this one for about $35. But you can get one for about 18 bucks. But don't use like one of those little white masks. Use a respirator. Use a good respirator. Okay. So here I'm applying the primer, and you can see right away that it's already blocking that stuff out because water and oil don't mix, right? So the oil stain blocking primers do a really good job of blocking this kind of stuff out. So I highly recommend using an oil or a shellac-based product like this. Okay. And here's what it looks like. This ceiling is completely primed, and I've started, so the shiny paint that you see here, that's the coat of ceiling paint. That's actually wet. It's going to dry. I use an ultra flat on the ceiling, so this will dry flat. But you can see how well I covered, right? So it just works really well. So I really like that when it dries up. Okay, and then this is what it looks like when it's done. So this has two coats of the finish on it. All right, so that's your dealing with tannin bleed. All right, if you like this video, I hope you think about giving me a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, I hope you think about subscribing. Okay, thanks a lot.